Let's bring in White House Deputy Press Secretary Brian Morgenstern. And Brian, look, you and the rest of the White House staff have been through the ringer this weekend, that's for sure. Let me just start by asking what it's like to be there at the White House. I'm sure you worked all weekend and not having the president there.
Well, thank you for the question, Dana. It's good to be with you. We are all vigilant. We are all working together, whether it's by phone or in person, if that's possible. If we have really meetings where we need to attend in person, we're kind of experienced at this point. It's been a number of months during this pandemic. We know what to do when there are positive cases around. People who may be exposed, isolate, and we take tests regularly so that we're able to identify cases quickly. Things are cleaned on a very regular basis. So, we're going about our jobs as best we can, instilling calm and confidence for the American people that their government is working. The president is at work, and so are the rest of us supporting him.
So I understand that there will be a briefing at 3 p.m. today. Is that when we might learn if the president will be returning to the White House?
Well, I won't get in front of Dr. Connally or any announcement on where the president will spend tonight or be in future days. I know that the president has been very active, very energetic. We saw him tweeting with the caps lock button on quite a few times this morning. He had his national security briefing yesterday. He's been on the phone with other staff today. And so I know he is continuing to work and is eager to do so, resuming a more normal schedule. So I'm sure he wants to. He will also be consulting with his doctors and following their advice, I'm sure.
Yep, doing the right thing. So I would say that the weekend communications was sort of suboptimal. Would you concede that the communications from the White House, from the doctor, from Mark Meadows, from the press office, and the communications team could have been more clear to avoid the confusion that ensued?
Well, I think there were comments that were really misconstrued quite a bit, and I think there was sort of panic on the part of many in the media that maybe wasn't justified. The doctor gave several on-camera briefings himself and several memos he released to the extent there were points that needed to be clarified. I think we clarified them promptly. There's no easy way to communicate in the middle of a pandemic and an election when the president is in the hospital. Of course, he released a couple of videos himself to speak directly to the American people. So we've been very transparent. It is not an easy topic to communicate on, but we're working hard at it, and we're continuing to inform the American people on a real-time basis.
So your boss, the press secretary, Kayleigh McEnany, we find out today that she has tested positive. I understand that she's feeling fine. And 2 deputies also in the press office have tested positive. So does that mean, I suppose, that you're holding down the fort? When she was briefing over the weekend, she did so without a mask. If you do any gaggles going forward, will that change?
Well, so we'll wear a mask when we cannot socially distance, and if you're outside and you're standing back from everyone, it may be easier to hear if we don't wear one. If there's a situation where I need to be close to someone, I am wearing my mask. When I cannot distance, if I'm in a meeting with someone and I can't step back or stand back, especially if we're indoors, I'll definitely be wearing my mask. I'll put it on as soon as I'm done with this interview. But just a refresher on contact tracing for people and the CDC guidelines. It's, if you're within 6 feet for more than 15 minutes, you're considered a close contact. I think what Kayleigh was doing in terms of gaggling, she was back more than 6 feet. She was outdoors. So I think that, maybe some people are reacting a little bit harshly to that, but I think she was behaving safely and that she was outdoors and standing back from people.
In her statement, she wrote today that she definitively did not know about the Hope Hicks positive test. Can you define, what does she mean by definitively?
She didn't know. She found out later, well after she had done the briefing. Had she known that she, was exposed, she would not have done the briefing. If you remember, that was an awfully contentious briefing. I'm sure she may have preferred to cancel it.
Yeah.
But no, the point being, she would never knowingly put anyone in harm's way, and she did not do it then as well.
Well, let me just ask you, as a former press secretary, I think one of the most important things is that the press office get information that it needs. Has the press office reached out to the chief of staff to say we need to, circle up better here?
We talk to the chief regularly. He is keeping us informed, keeping the American public informed. And I know that we are working hard to get accurate, up-to-date information out to the American people. As I said before, Dana, I mean, multiple briefings with the doctors, multiple videos from the president himself, the chief getting out there this morning, briefing press. So we are making sure that the American people have the information that they need, and if we need to clarify anything, we want to do that as promptly as possible.
So it appears that the Supreme Court nomination, the rollout of Amy Coney Barrett last Saturday would seem to be where a lot of this the coronavirus was spread. So you have that. You have a couple of senators now who have tested positive. And I want to just hear from the White House the plans right now for two things: the Supreme Court nomination and also the COVID relief bill. The president tweeted about that on Saturday. Is he going to do some more before whenever he returns? I mean, there are some pretty desperate people out there in America that are looking for this relief.
Yeah, so first, Dana, I want to just note that the event last Saturday, we've seen a number of positive tests, but really later in the week. And generally, they say it's a 48-hour window from a positive test or symptoms, working backward. And so really these positive tests that came out late in the week wouldn't really be traced back to that event. I think people were sort of jumping to conclusions there. But to your question about the Supreme Court nomination, there doesn't seem to be any reason to hold back. The Judiciary Committee has had over 20 hearings, numerous types of hearings. They've had oversight, they've had nomination hearings, and they've proceeded with them on a hybrid basis where senators can participate virtually. There doesn't seem to be any reason to slow that down at this time. As for the stimulus question, it's a great one. The White House has been pushing regularly, really over the last month or more, for relief for people who are unemployed through no fault of their own, for small businesses, the PPP program. We want to keep people connected to their jobs. We want money for schools to have PPE and testing so that they can reopen, so that we can have those parents back to work and not playing double duty. These are things that the president and the administration has been supportive of, and really the Republicans have been supportive of for quite a long time. It's been held up really on the Democrat side. We're hoping to make some movement there. We've offered standalone bills, for example, on airlines, because we don't want those employees to be laid off, and on other measures, again, with a smaller package perhaps for small businesses, unemployment, and schools, things like that. So we've put forth many different proposals, all of which would address really direct problems that people are facing right now, and we're hopeful that Democrats will come around and we can reach an agreement here.
All right, Brian Morgenstern, you've been very generous with your time. I can't imagine how busy you are. Thank you so much.
Good to be with you, Dana. Thank you.